Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today. Welcome to the Hungry for Change workshop. Hope you're all ready to transform your relationship with food. I'm Tracy Sutton, an intuitive wellness coach, and it's 1 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I think more people will continue to trickle in here. So, why you're here? I'm assuming you were like me, tired of feeling stuck, exhausted by the guilt and frustration, and second guessing every food choice, wanting to be free of the endless cycle of dieting and food stress and obsession. So, if that's why you're here, you're in the right place. And here's what we're going to be covering today. We're going to talk about why diets and rigid food rules don't work and what does. I'm going to give you 3 actionable steps you can take today toward food freedom. I'm going to introduce my program, the Food Freedom Program. It's a 12-week small group coaching experience for those of you who want to really get in there. And I'll talk about what the food mood connection is and how to use it to your benefit. So let's get started. I wanted to talk about the fact that for so long, when I was stuck in the endless cycle of dieting and eating clean and healthy and then splurging and overeating, I always thought, all this education I had would help me. And I've been a certified fitness and nutrition coach for 15 years. I'm a certified life coach. I have a master's in conflict analysis and resolution. And the truth is, none of that education really taught me how to have a relationship with food. What it taught me was how to create plans, how to track macros. For those of you who don't know what macros is, that's short for macronutrients, so carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. I learned, how many calories I needed and others needed based on their body types. But again, I was never actually taught how to listen to my body or trust myself. So this picture on the right here was from 2007. It was my one and only competition. That was at the height of my diet cycle, really trying to eat healthy and then just feeling so deprived and restricted that I, swung the other way like most of us and overindulged. So this might look my best, but mentally, psychologically, emotionally, this was definitely not my best. In fact, I was reaching burnout here. I thought if I just tried harder, that's all it would take. I just needed to do better and to try harder. And that's actually why I created this mini workshop, because I feel that there are so many people out there who think this way. I know all the clients I've worked with over the last 15 years have definitely felt if I just try harder or do better, I can make it work. And so that's why we're here, because we've either been doing it, I was doing it for about 15 years. Some of you on the call might be doing it for 20, 30, 40 years. I never felt thin enough. My days were defined as successful if I did well with my food. It was a bad day, or I failed that day if I didn't eat clean or healthy, or the salad or whatever I had planned for that day. And my inner critic was just alive and well. It's all I could hear. At the time, I don't think I really knew it. And I don't know if you guys can relate to that, if you're really tuned into that kind of judgmental voice. It's like, don't eat that. You're going to have to work that off tomorrow, or that's not on your plan, or you better eat that salad instead of that, burger and fries you want. That inner critic was just all I heard all the time. And I even avoided social events because I felt fat. I was just very self-conscious in my body. I was tracking food and counting calories. One year I even created a spreadsheet. This was, I guess, 2008 or 9. This was before the tracking systems came out like they have today, like FitnessPal and that sort of thing. But, I also used food as a buffer and a friend. So I was a stress eater. In fact, even to this day, I can still feel like if I have some sort of emotion, happiness, sadness, disappointment, loneliness, that first pull is towards a comfort food for me. And so I've really had to work on that relationship as well. And so if any of you guys can identify with that, we're going to get into that a little bit too. So on the right, you'll see that December 2007, that was just shortly after that competition. And 6 months later, that was me. I'm gonna say maybe that was 25 pounds or so that I put on. I think, my biggest swing was about 25 or 30 pounds. And this is just a blip on the radar, 15 years of going back and forth. I would always be up and down 10 or 15 pounds. And I always thought, if I could get this thin and stay this thin, all my problems will be solved. I'll be happy, confident, successful, and I'll be wanted and loved by everyone. And of course, that was a big fat lie. So then I found food freedom, and my whole life really began to shift. Instead of obsessing over rules and restrictions that come with diets and wellness plans and all of that, I started to really focus on nourishing my body and my mind. And I'm going to get into more later about what that really means. I started to challenge and quiet that inner critic, right? That judgmental voice that really just was so harsh. And I know it was there trying to help me, but really it was berating me, and I wasn't being helped at all. And I can imagine if you're on this call, you can probably identify with that. I started tuning into how my body felt instead of focusing on a number on a scale or what size my jeans were, or any of those things. And instead of going to the gym to kind of fix or undo the damage I did, I started moving because it felt good, right? Like, I really dislike Pilates. I'm sure you guys have things that you either really like or dislike, and we are much more likely to do the things that we enjoy than the things that we don't enjoy. So I really leaned into doing only the things that I enjoy. And then lastly, I started paying attention to how I show up for myself and how I tend to my needs. That's not something any of us are really taught. I don't think growing up or in school or anywhere, we, with a significant other or children or pets or loved ones or friends, we so easily will show up for them and tend to their needs and really sacrifice ourselves to help someone else. But very rarely do we turn that focus on ourselves and show up for ourselves and tend to our needs. So those are the real, foundations of food freedom. So, I just want you to know that at this point, if you're thinking, well, I don't know, is this going to work for me? I've never worked in 15 years with someone that this didn't work for. And I'm just sharing some things that Sharon and Carol, a couple of my clients, have said. And I'm sure that you can relate to, trying to manage the weight, doing the yo-yo dieting, losing 45 pounds, gaining it back, feeling deprived, all of that, and then finding food freedom and everything starting to change for them. Their awareness around food, their choices becoming different, exercising because they enjoy it, not feeling that guilt, that shame. So this is just, a couple of clients and their feedback. So it can definitely work for you as well. So I want to talk about why diets don't work and what does. We're going to first start with the truth about diets. These are some staggering statistics. So 95% of all diets fail. That's crazy, right? When you hear that. And 80% of the people on those diets who lose a decent amount of weight regain it that year, which, between those two statistics, it's like, what are we doing here? So on top of that, and this one was really true for me, dieting increases cravings and emotional eating, making it harder to stop thinking about food. My first diet was the Atkins diet in the early 2000s, and I'm telling you, all I could think about was my cheat day. That's it. That's all I could think about. Chronic dieters are 12 times more likely to binge eat. That is definitely part of my story. I kind of like, oh, I'll eat this cookie, and then the box of cookies is gone. And lastly, to really solidify the fact that diets don't work, 45 million Americans go on a diet every single year, and yet 70% of the population are overweight, and the rates keep rising. So that's the truth about diets, which is it's an ugly truth, unfortunately. But that's why we're here, to do it a different way. So I want to give you a picture of why diets and rigid food rules don't work. If you look at this cycle, you'll see that at the top, restrict and deprive, right? That's eat only salads this week, or eat really healthy and clean, or limit your carbs, or keep it low fat. That's in that restricting and depriving realm. Then we go into the next step of the cycle, which is like you start to crave something, right? You start to white knuckle it. Like it's like so hard. You're thinking how much you really want that thing that you're not allowing yourself to have. And that inevitably leads into splurging, overeating, overindulging. And then, of course, you're going to feel guilty and shameful, and you might even fear weight gain. And there might actually really be weight gain. You might put on a couple pounds. And so then that sends you right back into doing it again. And that cycle, it just goes round and round and round. It's a trap. So let's talk about what does work. What does work is listening to your body. On the left, you're going to see external metrics. That means everything outside of our body we use to measure our relationship with food and what's going on with our body. So calories, macros, points, predetermined portions like a half a cup of rice, meal timing, harsh intermittent fasting like fasting for 18, 20, 24 hours, counting your steps, watching how many calories you burned for the day or at the gym. Anytime you focus on something outside of your body, like one of these external metrics, the outcome is that it creates a loss of connection and trust with your body. And I'm going to get into why that's so important. If you take a look at the right, it says internal metrics. This is going inward. This is tuning into your body like you did when you were a child. Remember when you were a kid, you ate when you were hungry, you stopped when you were full. If you didn't like the carrots or the peas or whatever, and they weren't satisfying you, you didn't want to eat them. And the emotional awareness is really just tuning in to the fact that there is a connection between our dopamine hit, right? If I eat a chocolate chip cookie and a French fry, that's going to give me a dopamine hit. I'm going to feel better. So it's going to help whatever emotions that I might be experiencing. So tuning into your hunger cues, your fullness signals, your satisfaction levels, and your emotional awareness are all internal metrics, and they lead to the outcome of rebuilding trust with your body and freedom around food. And that's what this entire program really is about when you get into food freedom and what's known as intuitive eating. So how do we start to break the cycle? I'm going to give you 3 action steps you can take today. The first one is ditch the diet mentality. The first time I heard that, I thought, wait, what? No way. My fear was just like it says here, if I stop dieting, if I stop trying to control what I eat, I'm going to gain more weight. But the fact is, you saw that cycle, right? Dieting triggers overeating because of the deprivation, right? So releasing yourself from diet culture doesn't mean that you're going to let go of being healthy. That's not it at all. In fact, unlearning the diet rules is going to allow you to reconnect with your body's physical sensations like your hunger, right? Not pushing past your hunger, understanding your fullness, stopping when you're full, and eating things that are satisfying to you. So often on a diet, I would eat things like rice, broccoli, and a piece of chicken breast, and that was not satisfying to me. And so it made me want things even more. So we ignore these sensations, these physical sensations for years. We had it down as children, but then we grew up and diet culture, was very pervasive and we fell into the diet mentality. So you want to be careful about, praise almighty thinness, as I say. There's so much focus on how our worth is tied to our weight, and being thinner means you'll be happier, healthier, more successful. We already know that's not true, because we have gotten to that goal weight at certain times, and then, it's short-lived. So being kind and loving to yourself is one of the main cornerstones of being able to let go of the diet mentality and breaking up with diet culture, because it's the antidote to that inner critic, that judgmental voice that's telling you, no, you should be eating that salad. Don't touch that cookie. Nope, it's not the weekend. You can't have that cheeseburger and fries yet. The loving, kind voice is much different than that. And we'll get into that a little bit as well. So what you want to watch out for is feeling guilty after eating certain foods. That's the diet mindset. Trying to undo the damage through exercise or skipping meals. Like if you eat the cookie or the French fries, you say, oh, I'm going to have to spend extra time on the treadmill tomorrow at the gym. It's that undoing the damage mindset. Thinking you need to earn your meals. So, oh, I better work out today since I'm going to have pizza tonight, right? Or this fear will really get you. And this is what you really have to watch out for, because there's going to be a part of you that says, this might work for everyone else, but not for me. Like I said, in 15 years, I've never worked with anyone that this did not work for. The other thing you want to be careful for is the constant body monitoring. That's going to just propel you right back into the diet mindset. Weighing yourself daily, pinching your fat, checking how clothes fit, all of that. So be on the lookout for that. And then lastly, this is one that really got me, and that is the black and white thinking. Like I said, oh, if I eat one cookie, I've already ruined it for the day. I'll just eat the whole box, right? So that's what you want to watch out for when you're trying to let go of the diet mentality. The second step is firing the food police. This is that inner critic I was telling you about, right? That judgmental voice that's trying to enforce the diet rules that you've picked up over the years that are so ingrained. It's like the only thing you know. It's going to judge your food choices. It's going to make you feel guilty for eating quote unquote bad foods. And it's even going to congratulate you, like, good job, way to go for eating that salad that you didn't want today. So this voice is literally the thing that keeps you trapped in that cycle that I showed you, that cycle of shame and deprivation. The other pieces that you want to be just cognizant of is what I call the nutrition enforcer. So it's like, oh, I don't know, are you going to have shredded cheese in that salad today, Trace? That's extra fat for you, right? So that's that kind of nutrition enforcer. Or the rule breaker, right? When you don't give yourself what you want, it just wants the burgers, the fries, the cookies, the pizza. It's just like for 3 days, you're just eating really, truly not what your body wants, but what your mind has been craving because you haven't given it to your body. So again, what to do? We're replacing the judgment with self-compassion. Instead of all these really critical inner voices and judgmental voices, the food police has just got to go away. And the only way to do that is to turn inward and have an internal dialogue with yourself that is loving and kind. Because if you and I were out to lunch one day and I said, oh, I would really love a burger with fries. I haven't had a burger and fries in forever. You're not going to say, Tracy, if you want to stay thin, you should really skip that, right? You're going to say, get the burger and fries if that's what you want, right? Because that's the loving thing to do. And the truth is, the more loving and kind we are, we actually have a better chance of having a healthy relationship with food and not gaining weight. The more we beat up on ourselves and create that guilt and shame, we stay in that cycle and we inevitably gain the weight. So this is what they're going to have to say, right? You shouldn't eat that cheese. It's too high in fat. You don't deserve that dessert. You didn't work out today. Carbs are bad. You should avoid bread. You're eating again. You just had lunch. Don't eat after 8 or you'll gain weight. You've ruined your progress by eating that. If you're serious about losing weight, stick to salads only. You'll need to burn off that pizza with some extra time at the gym. This is just a few things that I'm sure you've heard over the years in your own brain. All right, so the third step here is making peace with your plate. This is about giving yourself unconditional permission to eat without guilt or judgment. And this is where that fear is going to come in again. Like, oh my gosh, if I do that, I'm going to be as big as a house. It's not true. I promise you, if your whole house was filled with Oreo cookies or French fries or whatever, after a certain period, I don't know, a day, 2 days, 3 days, you're not going to want them anymore because you're not deprived of them. That's the whole basis of dieting, is deprivation. That's why you want those things and then you feel like you can't control yourself when you have those things. So giving yourself unconditional permission to eat without the guilt or judgment, without the food police, is actually what sets you up to have the kind of relationship you want to have and be a healthy weight. So when you allow yourself to eat what you actually want, what you truly want, what's satisfying for you, you remove the power that those forbidden foods hold over you. They've held power over you for years, right? If you're in the diet cycle, that's just the way it is. So you start to trust your body's innate wisdom by reconnecting with your body's hunger and fullness cues, right? That's not eating past, fullness. That's eating when you're hungry. Like on Thanksgiving for years, I would not eat the whole day. And then I would eat at Thanksgiving and I would be stuffed, miserably stuffed. Versus now with food freedom, I eat my normal meals throughout the day. I have my Thanksgiving meal, and I know I get to have another Thanksgiving meal the day after, and the day after, and the day after, whenever the leftovers run out. And that's great. I don't have to gorge myself, right? So you want to allow yourself to enjoy food in a way that feels balanced and satisfying. So here's what that looks like. Enjoying a slice of cake because it sounds delicious without beating yourself up or needing to make up for it later. Choosing pizza for dinner because it's what your body truly wants, not because it's a cheat day. This was huge for me. All week I would eat healthy, and then on the weekend, that's when I would splurge. So for me to have pizza on a Tuesday is like mind blowing. Now, today, because I have food freedom, it's normal. But back then, I would have never done that. Grabbing a snack mid-afternoon because you're actually physically hungry, even though it's not a scheduled mealtime. Some people really try to say, oh, I'm going to have lunch and I'm going to have dinner and I'm not going to do any snacking. And that's not honoring your hunger. And when you don't honor your hunger, trust me, you're going to eat later more than you really want because you're going to push past that fullness because the body has been deprived. That is the way our biology works. We don't have any choice about it. Having fries alongside a salad because both sound satisfying and enjoyable. For me, this was never possible. All the years that I was in the diet cycle, it was either or. Either I had the salad or I had the fries. To put two of them together, I couldn't fathom that because that means, I fell off the wagon, so to speak. Or adding cheese to your sandwich without worrying about fat or calories because it makes the meal satisfying. So those are just, what it looks like to be able to have food freedom and give yourself that unconditional permission to eat what you want without the judgment or the guilt. So all that can feel like a lot, and especially when you're getting into this for the first time, trying to do it on your own is challenging. I've found over the years of working with clients that when they have support, and myself included, when I've had support, I do much better. And that's why I created this food freedom program. It's a 12-week small group coaching program for women. What's included is a food freedom kickoff workshop. That's two 2-hour sessions over the first 2 weeks. That sets the foundation for what we're going to be doing those, remaining 10 weeks. There's going to be bi-weekly coaching sessions. They're an hour and a half small group coaching sessions. It's about 8 to 12 women. There are optional office hours, so you can drop in on the off weeks, the weeks between coaching, and share your wins. You can ask questions, get direct feedback. There will be a daily Telegram support. For those of you not familiar with Telegram, it's just an app where you can come together as a group and stay connected through messages. I'll also have a private Facebook, so even after the program is finished, you can stay in contact and continue to get support. And then there'll be 2 exclusive bonuses in this program that I'm offering. One is the Food Freedom Workshop. That's a workbook that's going to help you throughout the 12-week process, really get in there and just uncover the emotions, help you with your habits, and check some of these stories that we write about ourselves and our relationship with food that are just not true. The second bonus is Crack the Code on Cravings. That's where you get to decode your cravings. You get some tools and help with navigating them. I go pretty deep into that guide actually, so that's a really good one. So that's what's included. There are 2 payment options. I've reduced the price significantly this time only. It's pay monthly for 3 months, $2.99, or pay in full once for $8.99. And then again, this is what's possible for you. These are what my clients who've been doing this are saying. And I just want to share that, if they can do it, so can you. If I can do it, so can you. So if you want to not have an unhealthy relationship with food anymore, or not always be trying the newest diet and be able to maintain a healthy weight, I would say go with food freedom. That's the only thing I've ever found to work. Okay, so the last thing I want to get into is what the food mood connection is and how to use it to your benefit. This piggybacks a little bit on that exclusive I was just telling you about in the Food Freedom Program. So I'm going to share just a little bit with you here. So the smooth, creamy foods, if you're craving that, right, like ice cream, frozen yogurt, or pudding, that often means that you're in need of or you're seeking comfort, nurture, soothing. If you're craving something like that's filling or hearty, right, like pasta, pizza, cheeseburger, cake, that usually means that there's some feelings of loneliness or emptiness there. And then lastly, the crunchy foods. We got the tortilla chips, the potato chips, the nuts, the crackers. That usually means there's some anger and frustration. So that is the food mood connection, connecting certain foods, right? Their textures, what they're like, with an actual emotion. And so I'm going to get into how to actually use the food mood connection as well. First, I want you to understand, though, that there are physical cravings and there are emotional cravings. Most people don't understand the difference. And once you know the difference, you can be set up for success on how to navigate them better. So with physical cravings, you're going to get like sensations in your body, right? You're going to really feel physically like you're craving something, and it's gradual and patient. Like for the last week or two, I've been craving an oatmeal cream pie. I just have. And it's been going on for a week or two. And it's been gradual, it's been patient. And the reason I know this is a physical craving as well is because an alternative will work. Even though I'm craving that, I might have a piece of chocolate or something and I'm satisfied after eating it, right? So that's how I know it's just a physical craving. I tend to it and it's gone. Versus an emotional craving. That's like a sudden onset. That's like me sitting here doing some work and all of a sudden I just have this craving for a chocolate chip cookie or pretzels or something like that. It's that sudden onset and it's specific. So that usually means it's linked to feelings. Emotions are starting to come up. You may not consciously be aware of them, but they're starting to come up. And then the body and the mind want this specific thing that you're craving. And even if you have it, it typically doesn't satisfy that craving because that craving is more of an emotional need. It's not a physical craving. So you might eat that cookie or those pretzels or whatever, and you're like, oh, I mean, that tasted good, but it just didn't really do the trick. A lot of times that is because it's an emotional craving. There's an emotion there that needs to be tended to. So this is what you can do. You take the food mood connection, and remember the food mood connection really only applies when you're not physically hungry, right? When you don't have that hollowness in your stomach or hunger pains, right? You're not physically hungry and you're still craving some specific foods. So because the cravings signal what you're feeling or missing emotionally, you can work backwards. So for example, if I'm craving something like a chocolate chip cookie, right? I'm often craving a chocolate chip cookie. So now you all know that I'm often in need of some comfort, soothing, and nurturing, but I'm often craving a chocolate chip cookie. And so as soon as I know I'm craving a chocolate chip cookie and I'm not actually hungry, I know, okay, wait a minute. I need something that's not food. I need to tend to this need, this emotional need. So you're going to ask yourself, what other ways could I meet this need without picking up whatever food that it is you're craving? So for me, a lot of times I'm going to pick up the phone, I'm going to call a friend, I'm going to connect with someone, and I'm going to get that kind of comfort and nurturing. And after I get off that phone call, I don't want that chocolate chip cookie anymore because I met the emotional need, right? It wasn't a physical craving, it was an emotional one. All right, so that wraps everything up. Thank you so much for joining. This is the time for some Q&A, so I'd love to hear any questions that any of you have. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and I'm going to unmute or allow you guys to unmute. If you're not familiar with how to use the reactions, if you click on React at the bottom, there's a raise your hand button. So if any of you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand and I'd be happy to answer any of them. And don't be shy. I have everybody's video turned off just for privacy. So feel free to just step on up and ask a question. Who would like to ask anything? No question is too silly, I promise. I know it's a lot of information to take in. It was a lot for me when I first started down this path.
What happens when you have a craving and you get what you want, but then you can't stop. You just keep wanting more.
Yes. Hi, Marlene.
I
Thanks for the question. Yeah, that's exactly what I was just talking about. That's a great question. So you get what you want, you've got it, whatever that thing is, and like you said, you want more. That's a great sign, especially if you kind of miss those other ones prior to the ones that I said. Okay, if it's an emotional craving, then it's going to be that sudden onset. It's going to be that specific food. You're not going to really feel satisfied. So it sounds like you've already got some awareness around the fact that, okay, this is not hitting it for me. So a lot of times you can work backwards. So let's say you were, I don't know, craving some chips or something. They're crunchy, right? So if we use the food mood connection to help you, you can look at the fact that the food is crunchy, which means it's linked oftentimes to being frustrated, angry, feeling powerless. I mean, I could give you so many more adjectives, but you probably get it. So then you would want to ask yourself, okay, I've grabbed these potato chips. They're not doing it. I can't stop eating them. So there's obviously an emotional craving, a need here that I need to address. And you can ask yourself, where in the 24 or 48 hours that have become, come before me, where have I felt angry, frustrated, or powerless? Oh, right, when so and so called me and blew up about X, Y, and Z. So as soon as you name that, right, you've got it. Now you've identified what it is. You're going to ask yourself, besides dipping into these bag of potato chips, how can I soothe my frustration and anger? Do I need to talk to my partner and just vent to someone about this? Do I need to just get out of my house and go for a walk and clear my head? Everybody's going to have different things. What might work for me might not work for you, and vice versa. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Like it happened to me yesterday, and part of it might have been because, I've lost 4 pounds this week, eating healthy, and I have had some things that I've wanted, but very little. So I just happened to see, and I wasn't even craving, just happened to see a bag of Doritos. And I said, well, I'll just have a few. I asked my husband if he wants some. So we sat and we had some, and then it wasn't enough. I went and got more,
Yeah.
and it still wasn't enough, and I went and got more.
Yeah. So
So
that's a great point you're making, because you just said, okay, I've been in the diet cycle this week. I'm doing quote unquote good. I'm losing those 4 pounds. I'm feeling better. And then it's like your biology kicks in. And that's what I'm really referring to when I talk about that cycle, right? Because our biology is set up in a way that if you deprive it of something, when it gets it, it just wants to go full force into it, even if you're not actually hungry. Like if you truly had some Doritos and you're like, yeah, no, I don't physically feel hungry for more Doritos, but I can't stop eating them. It's because you've acted that component in our biology that once we deprive it, it just wants more of that thing, because it says, I don't know when she's going to give this to me again. So I need to get as much as I can right now.
well, that's funny because this week, I have not deprived myself. It's like if I wanted something, a piece of candy, or the other day I had a few Doritos, I was good. But for some reason, yesterday, I don't know. I couldn't stop myself. Plus, I was sitting in front of the TV.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the distractions never help, right? That might.
That's right.
But you're bringing up something that is reminding me of something I went through when I would lose weight. I don't know if you guys can relate to this, but when I would lose weight, 1 pound, 2 pounds, 5 pounds, it didn't matter. When I would lose weight, there would be that voice inside my head that would be like, okay, now you got to sustain this. You got to keep going. You can't stop now. You're on a roll.
Yeah.
And that pressure to sustain my momentum would literally send me, like you. My thing wasn't Doritos. I'm more of a sweet person, but it'd send me into like a box of Oreos or something.
Well, I'm more of a sweet person too. That's why I was really strange.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not, I'm not that, chips and that kind of stuff is not really me. So,
And it's really hard to do this on your own. That's literally all my clients over the years have been just saying how hard this is to do on their own. I mean, they're grateful that we have our one-on-one coaching time, but that's just 1 hour a week. You guys have so many other hours left in your week with yourselves. So
mhm.
that's why I created this program, so that a group of women could come together and get this support, because it's really not easy to start to break this diet cycle and just completely have a different life, especially if you've been doing this for years.
Yeah, I don't like to call it a diet because I don't deprive myself of things that I want, but I just don't have much of it.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I never identified with the diet term either. I really always just was quote unquote trying to eat healthy.
Yes, that's what I've been doing,
Yeah.
trying to eat healthy.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you.
Yeah. It's coming. Anyone else want to ask a question or share anything? Would love to hear from you. Don't be shy. It's a safe space. We've got the time. Anyone? No questions? You guys have all the answers? What are you doing here? You don't even need me. Somebody's got to have one question.
Tracy, I have a question.
Yes.
You said that if you are desiring a certain food, that is attached to a certain emotion. Can you go over that one more time, please?
Yes. Thank you, Nancy, for your question. Um, so with the food mood connection, you want to remember that it's only true when you're not hungry. So you know how like you'll eat dinner and then you want something after dinner, or like 30 minutes later you want something, or even an hour later, and there's no way you're hungry because you just had a whole meal. That's when the food mood connection is true. So when you're actually physically hungry and there's something that you're wanting, and for the last few days you're like, oh man, I'd really love a turkey sandwich or whatever it is. That's that kind of gradual buildup. That's an actual true physical craving that's not typically related to any emotional need. But when you have eaten something and you're not hungry and you've got this specific craving for something, that's your first cue that it has nothing to do with being like physically hungry, that it's an emotional need that needs to be actually met, and that no amount of cookies, chips, whatever is going to meet that emotional need. Does that make sense? What I was saying?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
All right. Anyone else?
I would say the emotional eating is probably much more difficult to overcome than the physical.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I feel like that's been my struggle for the last couple of years,
Yes. I
the
agree.
emotional eating. So
Yeah. And
that's difficult.
and I know you said you don't quote unquote diet. I will say though that I found with my clients and personally even myself that when I try to eat really healthy, um, that kind of like pushing myself makes whatever emotional needs I have come up even more. They just become more pronounced. I don't know if you can
It's
relate.
like a snowball effect.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
So I can't win this battle.
You can. You can. I promise, actually, you can. If look, if I can, you can. Absolutely. You absolutely can. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll try.
Yeah. Check out my food freedom program. See if it's a good fit for you. There'll be other women there. Some people have already signed up. So it starts next weekend.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else have any questions? Need clarification? Want to go over anything? Janice, I see you're unmuted. Do you have a question?
I do have a question, Tracy. What you just said makes so much sense, and it tells me exactly what I do. I do that emotional eating. I will be so full after eating, but right then, as soon as I finish eating, I'm full, don't want anything, but I have to have something.
Yes. Yes.
So what you're telling me is very helpful and answers a lot of my questions.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. I will say, over the years, I've never really found anyone to speak to this, you know, like what are you supposed to do when,
I never knew any of this. Not to interrupt you, but I never knew any of this until you just said it.
yeah, yeah. No, I know. I've been hearing this from my clients over the years. It's like I said, one of the reasons I created this program, because I just don't think there's a lot of support out there for this. I don't think there are a lot of tools and, you know, help, honestly. So yeah, no, I'm excited to do this program. And I will say though that one of the biggest things that I know I said it a few times throughout the program, but it's really important to remember that the way you talk to yourself is everything. I'm going to share one research study very quickly, but it changed everything for me about 10 years ago. There was a research study done where they invited a group of people to come in and they had like a smorgasbord of food, anything and everything, all the salty, sweet, you know, all the good stuff. They split this group into two groups. One group went in one direction and would, you know, meet one of the facilitators of this study and talk to them. They would have questions, and another group went in the other direction. One facilitator would shame the people who ate food. So let's say someone sits down from the study. How's it going? Are you enjoying the food? Oh, I ate 3 cookies. I had too many potato chips. And the facilitator would say something like, oh, yeah, that's awful. I can't believe you ate all that. Wow. So they would be like the food police that already exist in that person's head. So they would shame them and judge them. The other group went to this, you know, to another facilitator, and they would say, how are you liking the food? How's it going? And of course, the people would say, oh, I had too many, you know, nuts and had too much dip and I'm stuffed. And oh, well, you know what? That happens. You know, it's not the end of the world. You don't eat like this every day. You know, be nice to yourself. It's okay. And next day they came back, and these people don't know why they're there. They're just answering these questions. The next day they come back. The group that was shamed ate twice as much as the day before. And the group that was not shamed and was met with a lot of compassion and kindness and understanding ate less. So there's so much research out there that shows that that harsh, judgmental, critical inner voice we think that's going to help us is actually making it worse for us. The kinder you can be to yourself when you slip up or mess up or, you know, eat a whole box of cookies because you're feeling frustrated or whatever, the nicer you can be, the less you're going to start doing it. And that was definitely my experience. I had to start having that conversation with myself when I would eat the whole box of Samoas, which I did for many years. I had to have that conversation with myself that was kind and loving and forgiving. Just like if you were telling me this, I would say to you all the nice, kind, loving things as you would to me and anyone else, right? So does that make sense how the inner critic versus the kind, loving voice is at play here?
That makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense. Where I beat myself up over eating whatever instead, and then not being satisfied. So you're right in what you're saying, and I really appreciate you having this workshop to get us familiar with stuff and join.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm glad you're here. Thank you for that question. It's a good one. Definitely.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else?
Hey, Tracy.
Hey, Christina.
How's it going?
It's going. How are you?
Good, good, good. Happy New Year, by the way.
Thanks. Same to you.
So I was listening to you going over these emotional things. So here's what I have a problem with. I'll be watching a movie and I'm like, okay, pause it. I need to go get some popcorn. My thing is salt more than sweets, but I'll finish the popcorn and then I'm like, okay, I need something else. That one bag of popcorn was not enough. So I either go do another bag of popcorn or then I get something sweet because I like both. Why? I mean, that sounds like multiple emotions there to me. If I'm doing both.
Might have a lot going on. Well, 2 things I'm going to point out. One, at night is when the emotions start to creep up, right? Because we're in our day, most of us, and we're kind of busy, whether we're going to work or running errands or raising kids or grandkids or, you know, whatever we're doing, like our day is busy. So our emotions don't really have time to surface because there's all these to-dos. So when it comes to nighttime, you're sitting still, you're relaxing, you're watching something you're enjoying. That's when the emotions start to come up. They think, okay, this is a safe time. This is a space where all is calm, and now I can start to come to the surface so I can be felt, because that's all emotions want, is to be tended to. They just want to be felt. I know that sounds super simple, but literally that is it. But we have a tendency to push, 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 push with, like you said, the popcorn or the chocolate covered pretzels, or, you know, whatever the thing is. And so that you're right, there might be multiple emotions coming up. You put television on top of that, and if you're watching something that is in any way, shape, or form similar to any emotion you're experiencing, it's called matching. It's matching your emotion, which is making your emotion rise more. So if someone's in distress on the TV show, or someone's being broken up with, or whatever, if in any way you can relate to that emotion, it's causing your emotion to rise more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Well, I guess I'll end it here. We do have some time left, but if any other questions come up, or you want more clarification or anything else, like I said, feel free to respond to that email. You can respond directly to me. I'll get it. And I'm happy to ask. Okay, Elizabeth, thank you. They've asked your question. Okay, good to know. Thanks. I'm glad you could make it. All right, guys, I hope you have a wonderful Saturday. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I'm doing it with you, and I hope to see you guys again soon. Take care.
Thanks,
Bye,
Tracy.
Tracy.
Thanks
You're
so
welcome.
much. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Take care.